Object-oriented programming is a coding paradigm which relies on classes and objects. And classes are simply variable types with attributes and properties. These attributes of a class are variables and the properties are methods. In this section, we shall look at classes and objects, operator overloading, method types, inheritance, encapsulation, and polymorphism. Suppose we want to design a program which produces smileys based on some inputs. We could define a smiley framework like this one. And the way we define such a framework is by defining a class. So we could have a class smiley with attributes like is smile. So let's do this. We have an attribute like is smile, which is set to true. We have an attribute like face color, which is set to white. An attribute like eye color, which is set to white. This is actually a string, so we set that to white. And then this class could have several properties or methods. Like for example, the set smile method. So since the method, we have the def set smile, return for now none. We could define the set face color, return none. We have the set eye color, return none. And there we go, we have our smiley class. So there we go, we have this smiley class which we've defined. But actually this class is just a framework, and to put it to life we need to make use of an object, which is an instance of this framework or some sort of version of this framework. So coming back to the slide, as you can see, we have this frame here. We could create an object or an instance of this frame with face color orange, eye color blue, and then is smile. That is, the is smile is true, since as you could see here, smiling. We could also create another object instance wherein the face is light blue, the eye color is red, and then we also have this other object instance where its smile is false, eye color white, and then face color black. So from this example, we see how based on this frame we are able to generate different smileys, and these different versions or instances of this frame or class is what we call the object. So now let's see how we create a simple object. We could say smiley, or let's say happy. With that, we have the smiley, and then we do a happy dot is smile. Run that. We have an error here, obviously, because this is smile isn't a function but just an attribute. So take this off, run that. We see we have happy is smile. Now let's create another object. We have the object sad smiley. You see sad dot is smile. Run again. We see it's still true. Now we want to do this or modify this object such that we have this is smile to be false. Now to do this, we could now make use of the set smile functions. So let's go ahead and modify this. We're taking the smile, or let's say current smile, or let's say smile status, and then we return still none, but with the difference that what we're doing is we're setting is smile to be false, or rather is smile is the smile status, not actually false. So Smile is a smile status. So we want to change this attribute of the class to become now what we put in here. So set smile now gets in here, or set smile takes in the smile status and then modifies the is smile. And then from this now we shall see what we get after passing through the set smile function. So run this. Obviously yes, true. But once we define this, we say set smile, and then we say false. Run again, and we see that we have an error. Now this error reads that the set smile takes one positional argument, but two were given. Okay, before looking at this, let's do some recap. We have defined this object, that is, we have defined this version of the smiley class, which is sad. Previously we had defined this other version, happy, of the smiley class. And then here we're like calling on this set smile function, which is, or the set smile method, which is part of the smiley class. So what we do is we have set smile, and then we pass in the smile status, which is false. Obviously if we set, then the smile status should be false, so is smile should be false. Now once we pass this, we are now ready to call again on is smile to be sure that it's actually false. But then we are having this error. Now having this error is very normal, and we shall see how to solve this problem, or how to correct this error. The way we correct this error is by giving each object some sort of identity in this class. So what we're gonna do now is, instead of just defining these methods in the class as if all the objects behave the same, we are gonna give it an identity. So we define the self right here, and then in here we have self, and for this here we have self. This self is actually a keyword used in Python. In other programming languages like Java, you'll have this. Now coming back to this, we've redefined our attributes, and then we've added one extra argument in all our functions. Now the reason why we're doing this is because we want to give this class, or rather to give each object created based on this class, an identity, which is going to be different from this other one right here. So this means that whenever we create this, or if we create an object, say happy, from this class, it's going to have a different identity from this other one. By identity we mean it's going to have a different way of working with these functions or methods, and also the attributes are going to be different. And this is done simply by using this self. Now that said, let's run this. We see that we have another error. We're told that the self is not defined. Now the way we solve this is by including a constructor. So instead of having to put this attribute out the way we've just done, we are going to define a constructor, and a constructor is just a special type of method. See here we have this init method, and this init method is what we call the constructor. Note that you cannot say, for example, you cannot do this. You cannot just define init like this and then expect it to work. So this init has to have two double underscores before and then two underscores after. So double before and then double after. Once we have this, now it's in this constructor that would define this attributes for the class, or actually this object attributes. So now let's run again. We see that everything works fine now, and that's simply because this attribute, or rather this class, has been defined such that we could now, for every object, define its own attributes. There's an error here, but we shall skip this. Like, we should just run this for now. So let's run again. We see we have this error, and take note, we must also have the self that's passed in the init. So let's run again, and there we go. It works fine now. So previously this is smile belonged to the class smiley, But now this is smile is actually the is smile for this happy object. And the way we did this was by using the self and then by including a constructor. So run that, that's fine. Now let's come back to this, run this, and there we go. We see that this time around the code works fine, but we are having a true instead of a false. So what do we do to solve this problem? The simple way we could solve this problem is by, instead of saying is smile as if this is smile belonged to the class, we have self.isSmile, so that Python knows that this isSmile is actually the attribute for this sad object. So let's run again, and there we go. Everything works fine now. We have this as false. So sad.isSmile is false, and happy.isSmile is true. We could go ahead and modify this again. Let's suppose we want to do this in a way that on defining the smile, we just say, for example, we say we pass in the status, that's the isSmile status. We pass in the isSmile status, and then instead of having this, we take this off, run this, see we have an error because normally the way the constructor has been defined, we are not meant to pass in any value right here. So what we'll do is we're gonna have this here, we'll say is smile. So by default we'll set it to true. By default it's true. So now here we have the is smile. Okay, let's run this again, and there we go. We see that without having to explicitly call on the set smile method, we already have the set turn to false, or the is smile for set turn to false. Let's take this off so you see that it works. So that's it. So we see that set.isSmile is false because of the way set was defined, and that's the role of this init function here, which is actually a constructor. So we are constructing this object based on this class by already defining our smile in such a way that it is true in the case where we have, for example, this happy. By default here, since we don't pass anything, by default it's true, and then when we want it to be false, we have just to specify that we want it to be false. Now the next step will be to take this and say, okay, face color, we repeat for the face color, we set it to default white. We do the same for the eye color, we set it to default white. That's it. So that there we go, we have the face color. Yeah, we have the face color. Run this, everything is fine. Let's now set this face color to say orange, and then we have sad dot, no, let's put it to black. We have black in the slide. Let's say black sad dot face color. So run that, there we go. So we see that now our sad is, let's take this off, print that simply, print this, run again. Okay, so now we have false black, and then we could also obviously include the eye color. No, our eye color is white, so we could just take this, we'll let that. So let's print out now the eye color, sad.eye color, actually sad.eye color, run it, there we go. We have the face color black, eye color black, and then the is smile is false. So this isn't a smile and smiley